All right, guys, how you doing tonight? Uh, First of all, I want to say welcome. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this. What I'm going to be able to do for you tonight is go over some actual deals and numbers that I've actually done and some of our members have actually done. So you're not only going to get to hear and see how to pull some comps and run some numbers, you're going to get to see real life examples. So, I hope you're ready for that because that's going to be a valuable asset to you. Not just getting to hear it and see it, but actually see live numbers that we actually pulled off. So, I want to jump right into it. First of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the picture here, and then we'll go into running the numbers, and I'll tell you a little bit about the property. This property right here is actually from one of our members of our coaching program, and this property is on Sandydale. So let me go ahead and pull up the HCAD on that one. So this is the HCAD, Harris County Appraisal District. You can see this property has a little over 1,000 square feet, 1,081 square feet. The land is 8,310 square feet. Let me pull this picture back up. Where's that? Here's the property again, so you can see it. This house, you can tell right here, it has a decent roof. Looks in pretty good shape. Brick house, which is always good, in a neighborhood that, looks pretty stable. It's a nice looking house. There's no doubt about that. Let's see how many bedrooms this one had. So this one right here was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And you can find all this information on of course, we're in Harris County, so this is Harris County Appraisal District. Down here toward the bottom, you'll see where it says bedrooms, full baths, and if there was a half bath, it would say half baths in there, and it would give you that number also. The year built, 1976. And up here is where I found the living area, and of course right here the land area. So let me jump back over here to the picture. So now that's how you're going to find out the basic information about the house is on your county appraisal district. So beds, baths, square footage, what it's appraised at on the tax value will be right here also under appraised value. You can see that it says it's gone down from the previous year. But to tell you the truth, I'm not really interested too much in what it says on the county appraisal district. I am far more interested in what the market is going to tell me. And by saying the market, I mean the actual sold properties in the same subdivision. So here off of this county appraisal is where I'm going to find the subdivision. So what I'm going to do is highlight this subdivision right here, if I can get it to leave the lot off of there. All right, I'm going to copy that. What we, as realtors or realtors have access to what is called the multiple listing service, MLS. So I actually have access to MLS, but if you don't, you can find a realtor that has access to MLS and can help pull comps for you. But even if you're working with a realtor, you want to know how to do this yourself. So I'm going to run through this and tell you how you're going to want to run numbers, what you're going to be looking for when you're dealing with these properties that you're looking to get under contract for rehab or wholesale or whatever you're doing. So first of all, we're going to start off with right here under status. I am looking for sold properties. In subdivision right here, I am going to put the subdivision that I just got off of the HCAD. So that's what we're going to start with. So I'm looking for the subdivision, sold, and then I am going to come down to the close date. So I'm looking for about 6 months back. So roughly 1/17, 13. Oh, sorry. So I have my date in there about 6 months back and search. These are what has sold in that subdivision in the past 6 months. So you can see over here on the far right hand side is days on market. You can see there's 0 all the way up to 132 days on market. There's really only 3 properties here that spent more than 100 days on the market. One at 132, 153, and 165. The rest look really, really good. There's a 45 days on market. There's a 17, a 12. So let's find something that's kind of similar to ours. So let me jump back over here to, okay, 1,081 square feet. So, and here's where you're going to find the square feet. Right here in this section, square feet. This is the square feet of the property itself. Lot size is right next to it. So ours was 1081. So here's one at 1085. So let's jump over here and take a look at this one. This is a nice little house. It's really clean. Doesn't look like it's been updated or anything like that, you know, too much. Nice roof, great curb appeal, looks, you know, really pretty. So let's jump back a little bit more. So that's one, that's kind of like ours. Here is another one. This one has 6,696 square foot lot with 1060 square foot on the actual house. So this one kind of looks a little closer to what ours looks like. Let's take a look at the inside. Oh, okay. Nice house. It's you can tell this house has good bones. It's not updated. It's not, it hasn't been rehabbed, obviously. It's just been well maintained. Got some funky colors, a little bit of different types of flooring all over the place. This would definitely be replaced right here. You could tell this isn't updated. That laminate looking tile floor. Looks like there might be a little bit newer appliance there in the kitchen, but nothing major has been done to this. Let's jump back and see if this is a foreclosure. I'm wanting to say this is probably a foreclosure. And there we go. In the agent remarks, it's a HUD case. HUD means it's been taken over by the bank and being sold by HUD. So that is kind of a good sign of what you're going to be able to sell for. Like we just saw the pictures of the inside. It's not updated. It was just cleaned, because the banks will send people in there to clean them up, but they're not going to fix them up in most cases, you know, to put back on the market or anything. So this one actually had a sale price. If you come down here, this is the sale price. The price at the top is just the list price. That's what they were asking for. And a lot of times with bank owns, HUDs, you know, all kinds of REOs like that, you're going to find that they actually sell for more than what they were listed for, because they list them at such really good prices, and there's so many investors out there jumping to buy these properties. So this one actually sold at $50,000, $50,151 with no contribution to buyer cost, and it was a cash sale. So that's looking really, really good for us. Let's jump back and see if we can find something else. So that's one good comp right there. That is a good comp for us, because if you look back at our picture, you know, the outside of our house, you know, it's not as clean. It definitely, the bushes are not kept. I don't have a picture of the inside right here, but it looked very, very similar to the one we just looked at, where it needed a lot of work. You know, it wasn't terribly, it didn't have a lot of structural damage. It was just ugly. Let me just put it that way. It was just an ugly property. And that's what we deal with a lot, is you got to look past the ugliness. So it didn't have structural damage. The roof is solid. There's no foundation issues. There was nothing like that involved here. So let me see if I can find another one. So that was 1060. Oh, wow. You know, here's another one. Let's take a look at this one. This one's actually smaller. This one looks like it might be Was this one a foreclosure? This one was not a foreclosure. This one was not a foreclosure. Let's see what the inside of it looks like. Okay, this one hasn't. Oh, wow. Look at this bathroom right here. Definitely in bad shape. It's fixable. You know, you retile that. You could redo a bathroom this size for about $1,500 with new tile, resurfacing the bathtub, a pedestal sink, you know, some basic tile on the floor, a new toilet. That's not something to be totally scared away by, you know. So it's all dependent on what kind of a price we could pick this up for. So this is a good sign right here. This property sold for $45,500 was the final sales price, and it was a cash sale. So a good note is if you see cash sale in here on the MLS, more than likely it's an investor who bought it cash. There are some people who will buy a property cash to live in it, fix it up, and live in it themselves. But when you're finding a few of them or more than one or two in the same neighborhood, more than likely it's investors who are coming in, picking up these properties. So if they're picking up this one right here for $45,500 and the one we just looked at before for $50,000, let's look a little bit toward the higher end over here. So this one's 1,600 square feet. Let's check out this one right here for 1,338 square feet. This one has been redone. It has some nice flooring, nice stainless steel appliances. The cabinets have been redone. So it wasn't overly done too fancy. Looks like, you know, I don't think it was rehabbed for by an investor for resale, but it looks like somebody lived in here and took care of it, and it was well kept and updated. So let's see if we find something else too. So that's a good comp right there too for the higher end, for your actual after repair value comp. Let's see if I can find something else a little closer. So, well, this one's 1,291 square feet. Let's take a look at this one. This one doesn't look like it was rehabbed either. Just looks like it's a nice clean house. Could definitely use some updating. Nice color on the wall. The hardwoods look good. So you wouldn't have to do much to a house like this, but you could do a few things to bring it up to par and make it one of the cuter, nicer, good-looking houses in the neighborhood. So let's take a look at what this one sold for. So this one sold for $67,000. This one again sold for cash. Wow, that's a pretty good number right there for a cash sale. Okay, I'm gonna jump back to this one that was 1,380 square feet. I want to see what the final sales price was. Okay, this was an FHA loan for $78,000. FHA, if FHA is loaning a sales price of $78,000 on this house, they did give a contribution back to the buyer for $2,400. So you're looking at, you know, about $75,000 is what the actual sales price was if you take away the contribution. So that's definitely not bad right there. So that comes to about $58.30 per square foot. So, and that's for 1,380. So let me pull up calculator over here. Oh, hang on. There it is. So I said 58.30 times our 1081. So that's a comp of, that means our value is about $63,022 and some change. Hang on, let me redo that. Oh yeah, because it was $58 a square foot. So that's what you're considering right there. Let me go back. Oh, wrong one. Let me go back and check a couple of these other ones. 172 sales list price and 165 sale price. That obviously was probably a different section. Let's take a look at this one right here. What is it? This one has a little bit bigger square footage. It looks like the garage was converted on this. Oh, wow. Okay, this is a rehab right here. More than likely, an investor came in, redid the flooring real nice. You can see a great tile job. Basic, but really clean and sharp looking. So let me go back to the details of this page. This was another FHA. This one sold for about $53.68 a square foot. So this one and the other one are telling me that we're getting, between $53 to $58 a square foot. So $55 a square foot roughly. So let me pull my calculator back up. We'll go 55 times 1081 equals around $60,000 is what our comp is going to be for this property. So we're looking at a comp of about $60,000, maybe a little over $60,000 because I pulled it pretty conservatively there. So if you're looking at a property like this and your comp is roughly $60,000, $60,000 times 0.70 equals $42,000 is what an investor is going to want to be in at 70% of after repair value. So this house right here, with a decent roof, the interior it wasn't in terrible condition. It was a lot like a couple of the houses we looked at where it needed updating. The cabinets could be painted. So you paint the cabinets, basic cleaning up and new carpet, stuff like that. So you could possibly be in for about $8,000. So let's say you need minus $8,000. So you're right in about $34,000. So that means you could sell this property to an investor for around $34,000. They can put $8,000 into the repairs, and they would be in for $42,000, which is right about 70%. And this is conservatively. I think the comp was actually a little higher than 60, but I was pulling it a little conservative. So they want to be in for 70%, which is like $42,000 minus repairs is $34,000. And that's right on the numbers that we ended up pulling on this deal. We sold this one actually for $35,000, and our coaching member actually got this one under contract for $25,000. So that's a pretty good deal right there. Like I said, we sold it for $35,000, so that's a profit of $10,000. Where the numbers say we should have sold it for $34,000. Again, I pulled it a little conservative just to give you an idea of how to do it and how to play it safe. We offered this one to our investor buyers for $35,000, and we ended up selling it within a couple days. I think maybe even the same day we blasted it out for $35,000. That's the benefit. We have extremely large amount of buyers that we work with in our area. So that's a benefit of having a large buyers list and a buyers pool of investors with cash ready to pull the trigger, especially in a neighborhood that you can see when we were looking at some of the comps in this neighborhood that investors are buying properties cash from the banks and REOs, foreclosures, that kind of stuff in that neighborhood. And like I said, it was really conservative because you saw they were paying $50,000, $47,000. They were paying a good amount of money for some of these properties. And we picked this one up for $25,000 and turned it to an investor for $35,000. So our investor was really happy. our coaching member was really happy because we turned around and sold it for him real fast and ended up making a $10,000 profit. So it was a win-win-win situation. We win helping our coaching members sell their property. The investor won because they got a great deal on a property they could put a little bit of money into and turn around and keep it as a rental or put it back on the market and sell it for a quick flip. And our coaching member won because he got his quick profit. So that is the first property that we were taking a look at there. Let me find another one here. Okay, this one is a Woodhaven property. This is on the other side of town. Let me find the HCAT on this one. Here we go. So again, here we go. This one had a 9,664 square foot lot. The living area was 780 square feet, but I believe on this one it was actually a little bigger than that, like around 1,100 square feet, because they had converted, I want to say they converted the garage. Yeah, you can see right here, they converted the garage. Here's the driveway that used to go into a garage. They converted the garage into living area, and it wasn't reflected on the HCAT. So, let's see, and this one is, it says 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and it was actually a 3-1 because they converted that garage into living space and turned it into a bedroom. So, all right, let me jump back over to MLS. We're going to change up the information here on what we were pulling. Again, we want solds. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at the 6-month back mark. And the only thing I'm going to change here is the subdivision. And that would be Westwood. Now, I'm taking the subdivision. I am not going to look for, well, I'm not going to put this information right here, the section and all of this information in when I'm doing a search, because I am just interested in the subdivision itself. You know, if I wanted to put this section in, that would be in this section over here, but I'm not doing that right now. I just want to see what's going on in that subdivision. Again, 6 months back. All right, so there's 118 properties that came up on this search. So now I'll go back and put the zip code in, which is 77025 for this one, and research, and that cut it down to 12. The reason I didn't put that in at first is because I want to, well, I could put the zip code in and narrow it down to the area that I'm actually looking for. But the reason I don't put the section in right away is because I want to see section 1, 2, 3, however many sections there is. I want to see all of it, and then I can start narrowing it down to the actual section I'm in, and you know, the rest of the details that way. So let me see if I can actually find. Okay, ours was 4109. And here we see 4126. So let's take a look at this one for a comp. Oh wow. So it's a funky looking little house. You can see, actually this is a great example. You can see right here, the sale price was actually $124,900, so roughly $125,000. It said here is a Westwood teardown in the best location within Westwood. So this one is literally a couple houses down from the one we're looking at. And you can see they're selling this one as a teardown. Seller will not make repairs. New construction has resumed in this area. And that is exactly what we found when we did numbers on our property. So, let's see. I'm trying to find one. I do not see it on here, But there was a house right across the street from 4109 Woodhaven, which is the property that we're running numbers on right now. It was listed, I want to say, at $570,000. So right around like $600,000 right across the street. And you saw when we were looking at this property right here that they're selling it for lot value because they're tearing stuff down over here. And that's what they're doing. They're tearing stuff down and they're building nice new construction. Hang on, let me go back, and I think they had a picture over here. See? So this, I think that's the house right across the street. So these houses are right next to and across the street from the house that we're running numbers on right now. These houses, I think they were being sold by the builder, so that's why they didn't come up on the MLS as comps. And you got to watch for that sometimes. That's why it pays to know the area that you're dealing with. Because if I didn't know any better, and I'm just looking at this property, just got under contract, and I didn't know that they're building these kind of properties in this area, I could totally overlook this property and be like, oh, it's not a great deal. Because this one wasn't one that we made a killing on. We did not make a killing on this property. We got it under contract for $110,000. Yeah, I think we got this one under contract for $110,000. I was just checking my numbers real quick. So we got this one under contract for $110,000. And we sold it to somebody who's more than likely going to tear it down and build on it. So we sold it to them for $115,000. So we didn't make a killing on it, but in less than a week from having it under contract, we turned around and made $5,000 profit on this deal. And that's because we knew the area. We knew that the new construction was across the street. We contacted people who are interested in building in that area, people who know what's going on in that area, and we found a buyer that would pay $115,000 for it. Because you can see right here, most of these are tear downs. So, like this Woodhaven right here, it was listed at $129,000. It ended up selling for $124,000. It took almost about a year on the market for that one, though. I don't know. I think that was before the market actually started turning. That was a while back. But you can see 15 days on market. This one sold for $120,000. 7 days on the market. That one sold for $105,000. 17 days on the market. This one right here sold for $140,000. 6 days on the market. One right here sold for $143,000. So you can see this market right here, or this neighborhood, had a lot of action in it. And because we knew the area, we knew builders were looking for properties in this area, and more importantly, on this street. This street right here was, the one that had the most new construction coming up. So that's who we contacted. And that's a great tip. So if you come across a property like this and you're able to get it under contract, and you know what's going on in that area, and builders are building in this area, contact those builders. Get a hold of them. Go by their properties. Call their numbers. Say, hey, look, I saw you just did a construction job over here. I have a property that I'm selling right down the street. Would you be interested? And you don't know. That builder may be, looking for another property to build right in that same area. Because if they're actually doing the construction at that time, then it wouldn't be that hard for them to finish that project and then have a project right, couple houses down, or at least real close in the same area to jump over to do some work on. So that is kind of a different kind of property, but still, that's how you would run comps on that. You can see what's selling in here, and then you go and check out the properties around it and finding out the new construction and stuff like that. So be very aware of the surroundings of the properties you're dealing with. Let me go back. All right, so just to recap, again, we got this one under contract for $110,000. We were trying to get this one under contract for like $90,000 would have been our ideal price, and we could have wholesaled it really fast for $100,000 to $105,000. We knew that. The seller would not go below $110,000. So rather than just throwing the deal away and saying, oh, you know what, I can't work with it, we went ahead and contracted it at the $110,000, which was, we worked with this seller for a while, and that was just totally the lowest they were going to go. They were not willing to budge. They kind of knew what was going on in the area too, and we did also. So that's why we knew if we contracted and got it locked up at 110, that we probably weren't going to make a $10,000-$15,000 assignment, but we could at least make a quick $5,000, and that's exactly what we did. So that was a pretty good deal. I was pretty happy with that. So let me go back. Oh no. Alright, kind of logging myself out here. The next property we're going to be looking at is, I do not know why it's not logging me back in. Alright, let me go ahead and close this out. The next one I'm going to show you is another one that alright, I think that should get us back in. Alright, here we go. The next one we're going to be looking at is this property right here. This one is on White Castle. This one is more of a working class neighborhood. The one we were looking at before, obviously there was a lot of new construction, high demand by the builders because they're building those McMansions there. Totally different kind of area. This is more of a working class area. Let me go ahead and pull this up. And hang on, let me go back to the picture. So here's the property and the HCAD here. This house is 1,062 square feet with the lot size of 7,705 square feet. 4-bedroom, 1.5. Here you go. The bedrooms, full bath, and then it has a half bath. So 4-1-1. 4 bedrooms, 1 full bath, 1 half bath. Again, the number right here is kind of low. It's lower than it was the year before, but again, I am not worried about that. I am more interested in the comp value over here. So let me go back. This one is in the North Plaza subdivision. So North Plaza sold, and again, I'm going to go roughly 6 or so months back. All right, why did it do that? I do not know why it did that, so let me pull this back up. Again, here we go. North Plaza subdivision, sold 6 months or so. Alright. So right here, there is only one property coming up. So let me go back. I'm going to make one minor adjustment. I'm going to go back about another month or so. Another month or two. So that's going to take me back into 2012. Okay, so that doesn't help me too much, but it will give me an idea. When I was running the numbers not too long ago on this property, there was actually, I think I also checked public records, which had a property that sold for like $85,000 that it was comping at. But let's just check these out right here. So first of all, we'll check out this one right here, which sold for about $70,000. Let's take a look at the inside of this one. Oh yeah, okay. I don't know if you can see these pictures really well, but you can see this house was not rehabbed, but it is not ugly. It was just a well-kept property. This more than likely had somebody living in it that took care of it. By the red wall right here, I'm saying that was somebody's personal home. I'm just guessing. And this is probably a foreclosure. So let me take a look at the... Okay, verbal price accepted. Let me go down. Okay, it doesn't say that this was a foreclosure, so maybe it wasn't. And that's why it was able to sell for the $69,900, close to $70,000. And the square footage is 1,400 on this one. Let me try to go back a couple more months and see. Alright, it's not really pulling up any more of the after repair value comps for us, but let's take a look at one. These two both sold for $35,000 in 63 and 23 days. Oh wow. Okay. So take a look at this. This one is a foreclosure. And if you're noticing, this is the same house. This house and this house, I just now noticed that. I didn't catch that at first. That is exactly the same house. So somebody picked this one up for $35,000. It doesn't look like they did much to it. It looks like it's exactly in the same condition it was when they bought it, and turned around and sold it for $69,900, $70,000. $70,000. So they picked it up for $35,000, turned around, sold it for $70,000, and didn't do any work to it. That's a pretty good turnaround right there. Let's check out this other one right here. So this one's 1,062 square feet, and this one sold for $35,000. This house isn't in terrible condition either. This is a lot like the property that we're looking at, that we're running numbers on. I'll go back to the picture and show you there. So this is the property we're looking at. You can check brick exterior. It just looks nasty. It looks dirty. It looks nasty. You can tell that it wasn't upkept. There's a lot of junk on the porch. Dead grass right here in the front. Maybe pulling a car up there, parking in the grass. Looks like junk on the side of the house. The roof looks in decent condition. I will tell you that, I don't have any other pictures of the inside on this one right now, but this one actually had new electrical put throughout the house. So it had new electrical. So that's something the investor wasn't going to have to do. The inside was just as nasty as the outside, though. It was, a couple of guys living in there that didn't really take care of it. The sheetrock was damaged. It was going to need some work in the kitchen and the bathrooms. So just because I knew that it could probably be done for about $12,000 in repairs, but I used $17,000 is what I ran my numbers with. So let me go back to the other numbers here. So if that other house sold for $69,000 without having any work done on it, Wow, that is one ugly house. This one again sold for cash for 35. Let's go back. Okay, so if that one sold for $70,000 and didn't have any work done to it, it is a little bit bigger in square footage. But I'm going to guess that because I know that one that we just looked at right now sold for 35,000 in 23 days, and it actually, the outside of it looked a little worse than our property, and this other one right here sold for $35,000, and it's kind of in the shape that ours is in. So just by knowing these two numbers right here, I know we can more than likely sell this one for $35,000, and that's what I was looking at when I ran the numbers on this one. Let me go back to our picture here so you can see it. So this one right here, I knew an investor would probably pick up from us for about $35,000, because the other one that sold for $35,000 was in worse condition. The outside was totally unkept. This one may be nasty, but investors know how to look past that. So if I know that somebody's going to pay about $35,000 for it, my goal is to get it under contract for less. Now the seller on this one, when they contacted us, the seller is actually in Virginia. I believe the seller was in Virginia on this one. So when she called us, she was asking for $50,000 cash. Now I'm estimating the house is worth about $78,000 to $83,000 after it's fixed up and cleaned up, because again, I did find numbers on public records that sold, and I can tell that properties are selling for around $35,000 in worse condition than this. But I like I said, I ran my numbers, came up with a after repair value of about 78 to 80 or 78 to 85. So roughly, I rounded it around in there for $83,000. So that puts me at around $42,000 or so. No, not 42, 52. Hang on, let me pull my calculator out. So 83,000 so 70% would be $58,000. Hang on, that doesn't look right. Okay, yeah, 0.70. So $58,100 is roughly what an investor is going to want to be all in for on this property. And again, I told you from looking at it, I knew it could be done for $12,000. I've done rehabs myself, but just to play it safe, we're going to say $17,000, and that leaves us at about 41. So about 41,000. Again, we saw that other properties were selling for $35,000 in worse condition. One of them was very similar, so I knew that I could get at least $35,000 to $40,000 for this property selling it. So the lady, again, she was asking for $50,000. She lived out of state. The people that were living in it were not taking care of it, and they were not paying her rent or any kind of compensation, and she did not want to go through evicting them. I think they were family members. So when you deal with people who have family members that are living in a property and not taking care of it, not paying for it, you have even a higher level of motivation in a lot of cases, because they don't want to cause a family rift. They don't want to argue with their siblings or their cousins or their uncles about, hey, get out of the property, you're not paying me. It's just a lot harder than dealing with a regular tenant where you can say, hey, you're not paying me, get out. So this lady had multiple levels of motivation. Property's distressed, she's out of state, people living in there not taking care of it and not paying her. So when she said she wanted $50,000, I told her, I said, look, I did find other properties in this area on the public record selling for like $23,000 and $24,000. Now they were in worse condition than this one, definitely worse condition than this one. So I even told her when I got her on the phone, I said, look, I understand you're asking for $50,000. So I'm going to tell you what I want to do. And from looking at numbers in the neighborhood, there are other properties that are similar to yours selling for $23,000 and $24,000. Now, what I want to do is I want to be able to buy this property from you cash. I want to be able to put repairs into this property using more cash. And on top of that, I'm going to have holding costs. I'm going to have realtor costs whenever I decide to sell it. I'm going to have closing costs, which I'm going to pay my closing cost and your closing cost and more closing costs when I sell it again, more than likely. So by justifying it with her and letting her know all the costs that I was going to have, I said, so I'm looking to be into this property for $26,000 cash. Remember, she's asking 50. Now I'm offering her 26. 26, 27. I don't really recall exactly, but 26, 27. And she responded by saying, look, I can't go that low. Could you do 35? Now, I know that other properties are selling for 35. So when she said 35, I'm like, okay, I'm getting in the range I need her to be. So I came back at her and I'm like, look, I understand you're trying to get as much for it as possible, but you have to understand I have to make the numbers work to be able to make this deal happen and be able to pull it off. So look, what if I could do 27.5, or it was either 27.5, 28. So I came up just a little bit. And so she came from 50, then I said 26, she said 35, I said 27.5 or 28, and she came back at me and said, well, could you do 31? And I told her, I said, look, I can't do 31. Oh, she said 31 because she owed $1,000 in taxes and wanted to get 30. I said, look, I'll tell you what, I can't guarantee you anything, I can't promise you anything, but if I can get my partners to agree to 30,000 cash, and out of the 30,000, we'll pay closing costs, so you'll get your 30,000 net, and out of the 30,000 that you get in proceeds, you pay your $1,000 in taxes, and you'll probably walk away with around $29,000. If I can get my partners to agree to that, or my partner to agree to that, can you agree to that, and can we make this happen? I can't promise you, so I'll call and check on it. That's what I told her. And she said, look, if you could do 30,000 cash and pay the closing costs, I'll pay the $1,000 in taxes out of my proceeds, and we'll make this happen. So what I did is I just told her, okay, let me call my partner, and I'll call you back in 5 minutes. So really, I didn't have a partner I had to check with. I just gave her about 5 minutes, called her back, and said, hey, look, I just got off the phone with my partner. He really didn't want to go that high, but I pulled it off, and I got him to agree to $30,000 with us paying closing costs and you paying your taxes of $1,000, so you'll get around $29,000. She said, okay, faxed her contract, she signed it, faxed it right back, boom, deal done. Now, to the selling part of this, with the comps we just ran right here that you just saw, we know properties similar to this one are selling for 35, and I'm pretty sure I could have pulled off 40. So what I did is marketed this property for $39,000, and remember, I have 2 guys living in the property who were not taking care of it, and they were making it kind of difficult to get in and view the property. So what we did in this case is when we blasted out for $39,000 to our investors, we had one investor that called back within an hour and was like, look, if you'll give it to me at $35,000, I don't even have to go in and look at it because I know the area and I buy multiple properties in that area. So I'll give you $35,000 cash for it, and I don't have to walk the property or anything because I already know about what I'm looking at. As long as it's standing, I know it's worth it for me. So I'm a firm believer in fast nickels over slow dimes. So we took the $35,000. They brought in their non-refundable earnest money, locked up the deal, and we had it locked up within a day. Now I could have pushed it and tried to got a little bit more, $37,000, $38,000, $40,000. But like I said, I had an investor that was willing to lock it up without going on the inside. They knew the area, so they knew what they were dealing with. And we took our quick $5,000 profit on this one. Again, fast nickels over slow dimes. I would much rather do that than trying to push it and trying to get more money out of it and end up losing the deal in the long run. So there you have it. That is 3 properties on how to run comps on numbers in different areas. The one with the new construction in the area, this one in a working class neighborhood, and the other one was was a decent working class neighborhood too, brick property. So I hope you got a lot out of this. I totally enjoy going through this with you, sharing a little bit of what we do and how we run our numbers and some actual deals that we've done and some of our coaching members have done. So, get out there, do your marketing, find some deals, and run your numbers. Make sure you run your numbers as close as possible as you can. The better you get at running your numbers, the better you're going to be at any aspect of this business. So, thanks guys, and that's it for now. Thanks.